Good news, everyone! I have returned, and with me today I bring another round of Stone Swap, because a few other friends of mine are doing another round, and I figured I got inspired, so another round of it. Now, I do know this trend was created by WASDmon, or WASDmon, I don't know which they prefer. So to start out, we have Feraligatr. Now, I know a lot of people disliked this mega, mainly because it's a toilet. Let's be 100% honest, it's a toilet. Like, that's what it is. And as for the Stone Swap, what I tend to do for Stone Swaps is it's basically like you're infusing one Pokemon with the energy of another, essentially acting as fusion. Because the whole point of Mega Stones is that they're crystalline energy of Pokemon that were killed when the ultimate weapon was launched all that time ago. So, if it's crystallized energy of a certain Pokemon, activating it on another Pokemon should, in theory, cause a sort of fusion of some kind. Though in some cases I imagine that if two Mons are more closely related, then it'll just alter specific parts of a Mon and not specifically fusion. A great example of it is the Water Starter Megas. Blastoise, Swampert, and Feraligatr. All three of them are water starters, meaning they all have a similar niche. So I imagine that if you give a water starter the wrong Megastone, it won't fully fuse, but it will take on traits of the Megastone that was given to it. And in this case, Feraligatr gets the Blastoiseite. Or Blastite? I don't remember which it is. When Blastoise Mega evolves, it gets 2 arm cannons and it has the big thing on its back. And I want to do something similar with Feraligatr, but not quite. Feraligatr already has the red spikes on it, and I feel like a lot of us fully believed that those giant spikes would actually do something. So not only did I give it an entire upper jaw worth of those red spikes as teeth, but because it's the Blastoiseite, I also covered its hands in those giant red spikes. Now it can't exactly pick anything up, but it's gonna rip you to shreds if it touches you. And because giant back cannon for Blastoise, the spikes on its back now are huge. Added a bit of the usual, I don't know what they're called, I guess like knee pads that Feraligatr has are now knee pads and spikes, and then I still did keep the crocodile giant maw thing, but instead I put it on the tail as a sort of big ol' thing. But now I just slapped it on the tail because, well, I feel like we all kind of liked the concept, but not the execution. Really, this design, I understand Mega Feraligatr, I get it. I still feel like there was a mistake in a few things, and they swapped the idle pose with the action pose, and we were supposed to always have its head down with its arms there, and then it's supposed to pop up when it's doing something. So I think they mixed that up, and then we got stuck with an awkward looking Feraligatr. But still, I understand what they were going for. I just wanted to try and incorporate some other stuff. And speaking of Blastoise, this one's a little unique, because as I said, Megastone, crystallized energy of a Pokemon, so theoretically, if you gave a regular Pokemon a legendary Megastone, the legendary Megastone should, as I said, in theory, completely overtake the regular Pokemon. So I wanted to try Blastoise with the Latiosite, because Latios is, famously known for having a really bad shiny when put next to Latias, because they're literally the exact same thing minus the eye color. But there's actually more to this design than you would think. First off, Latios and Latias are the Eon Pokemon. Eon is a long time, and Wartortle is stated to live for a long time, and it references a Japanese cryptid, or is it? Probably yokai, that is said to be a turtle that lives for a really long time and then gains long wispy feathers coming out of its back. And as we saw with early draft designs for Blastoise, they did kind of want to lean into that path because there are some designs like that. So I figured mixing the two might be pretty cool. And we do already have examples of Blastoise flying via water. So the idea that the Latiosite just makes that easier for Blastoise, rather than it just, I guess, it's really weird how it normally flies, because it like pulls its legs in and then blasts off that way. But like this way, it just launches via its arms like those water jetpacks. And as I said, Blastoise comes from Wartortle, who is stated to live for a very long time, and Latios are the Eon Pokemon, and Eon is a long span of time. So there's actually more connections for this one than there is for some other ones, and I ultimately feel like it's pretty cool. And as I mentioned, Legendary Mega Stones should overwhelm the Pokemon it's given to. I did it last time with Magearna, giving that one to Gardevoir. It overwhelmed the Pokemon, henceforth resulting in a Mon that is no longer what it was before. This situation is the exact same. It's a Legendary Megastone. A regular Pokemon shouldn't be able to handle it properly, so the Megastone alters the Pokemon fundamentally. And in this case, Blastoise now is a lot crueler, because it's lived for so long. It's cruel, it's seen it all, it's disgusted by what it's seen. Though now it is Water Dragon type, which means yes, 2 Water Dragon types in this video, for Alligator and Blastoise. Oh well. Now for Latias. Latios, sorry. As I said, easy to mix them up. But as for Latios, we have the Baxcalibrite, I think is what it is. I have no clue what the stone is. I think it's Baxcalibrite. That sounds right, but it's probably wrong. Anyway. Now, this one was interesting, because as I said, regular legendaries shouldn't really be super affected by Megastones. So I thought, how do I make this still very much Baxcalibur, but keep Latios fully intact? Easy answer, give it ice armor. The claws on the end of its wings, I guess, are now Baxcalibur's little hand things, and then Baxcalibur's swords are now serve as the little things on Latios's wings. I don't know what they're called, because like I guess those are its wings, because the other thing's its arm, but that doesn't make sense either. Yeah, I'm sure someone will correct me. It's got a nice little helmet on its head now. Now it can use Zen Headbutt without getting brain damage. And I did elongate it a bit and give it a tail, because why not? I mean, it's dragon on dragon violence here. Why not give it a more draconic tail? Speaking of dragon on dragon, yeah, it's still dragon type. Though, as for secondary type, I'm gonna go ahead and give it ice. My main path of thinking between giving it ice or psychic is the ice helmet freezes its head some and gives it a bit of brain freeze, so the psychic type takes a back seat over the ice. And this does kind of make sense. Latios is the Eon Pokemon, and Baxcalibur is based on, well, at least its name in English is based on Excalibur, which is a very famous old tale. Now granted, Eon is, I don't know if it's an Eon old yet. Off the top of my head, I don't think it is, so I can't really call it an Eon old myth, to my knowledge. But still, it's got some old myth inspiration in there, so. Also now, when Latios flies through the sky, it can cut apart anything it's sliding past, because, you know, gigantic swords cutting through the air at Mach whatever is going to do damage. If this thing comes out, chances are, not only are you getting cut in half, but every building in a 5-mile radius. Good luck. You're paying for your hospital bills and the property damage. Now, last but not least, Baxcalibur with the Feraligatite, screw it. I'll figure it out later. But with Baxcalibur, Feraligatorite is pretty obvious. It's just give the Pokemon a headpiece of its previous form. But for this one, I wanted to try something a little different, and just have its head entirely encased. Because it already has that sort of head ice jaw thing it's got going on. So having its entire head just be covered by a permanent ice fixture of its previous evolution, like Ice-Q has that block on its head always unless it breaks, I thought it would be interesting, you know? However, I also tried a few other things. For instance, on its hands, I gave it a basically thumb sword in reference to Iguanodon. At the end of its now much longer tail, and yeah, its body is slimmer overall to reference Mega for Alligator, because it's weirdly very slim. But yeah, anyway, at the end of its longer tail, it's got Frigibax's little, I don't want to call them claws, because they're like feathers, but they're really floppy compared to Baxcalibur's red ones. So I wanted to put that at the end of the tail to reference that, but also to reference other dinosaurs like ankylosaurs. Then, because Feraligatr has those spikes going down its back and on its tail, I gave Frigibax those, specifically spikes from its previous form on its back, while also kind of tying it into other dinosaurs like Stegosaurs. Also, Baxcalibur already kind of had the knee pads, but I just altered the shape to make him more Feraligatr-esque. Overall, it's a big hodgepodge of dinosaurs that kind of just ends up making it look like a slimmer but more casual, if that's the right word, Baxcalibur. Like, I kind of like Baxcalibur's Mega because it's, you know, it's a giant sword, you know, kind of like the entire myth that it's based on. But I wouldn't have minded a more casual Mega than just the giant sword sticking out of it. Like, don't get me wrong, I love it. I think it's a great design. But, you know, I wouldn't have minded a cooler, calmer version, even if it's not likely. And while I do know a lot of people were quite verbal about disliking Baxcalibur's design when it first came out, I think for the most part people have kind of moved past that, at least to my knowledge. And I'm kind of glad they did, because Baxcalibur's pretty cool. Oh yeah, I also made its feet resemble Frigibax's feet rather than Baxcalibur's, because Frigibax has specified toes, while Frigibax just has platforms. So I did add the toes back because I wanted it to seem dinosaur-esque and reptilian. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, I leaned just fully into the, fully into the dinosaur aspect, because Baxcalibur is a giant dinosaur-ish creature. I figured just adding more dinosaurs onto it would be the best option. And Dragon Ice type, just like the Latios. Huh. 2 water dragons, 2 ice dragons. Huh. Less diverse on the typings, but you know, we can live with it. Anyway, this is Jay, signing away, forever and always. Bye-bye.